This is the Off-Grid Knives Grizzly. It is a camp kitchen knife, and I put a slash between those two words because it's a pretty stout enough knife. You can use this for either purpose. Comes in this sheath, which is awesome. You rarely get a kitchen knife with a cover, or at least a cover that's worth keeping, but this one is pretty awesome. So here you have the knife. I put the slash between camp and kitchen because you could use this for either your camp chores or your kitchen chores, or both, or your food prep chores while at the camp. So we have used this knife in this household, not in this household, but when we were out in the woods. We have a little cabin we go to every summer, and I usually bring these with me because this is not our camp. I mean, it's not our cabin, and the knives are just substandard there. So we usually bring our own knives for cooking, but this year all we brought was this. And I loved it because it comes in the sheath, and also you put it in your backpack and you feel like you have a pretty stout camp knife with you too. Now, I use the word stout, but something to pay attention to is how thin this blade stock is. And that really does come in handy when you're using it as a kitchen knife. The steel is Aus 8, so it hones up pretty quickly. It takes a very nice sharp edge, and you'll notice this thing is about 2 inches broad. So it's a very broad blade, and it's almost fully flat ground. So it's about 1 3/4 inches of a grind on very thin blade stock, flat ground. It's very thin behind the edge, so it has a lot of characteristics of a chef's knife. The thin blade stock, the fully, nearly, this one is full flat ground, but the flat grind, the very thin behind the edge. But it's a little bit, here, let's see here. This is a shun, slightly thicker blade stock, but again, much broader. So you get a really good edge here. My wife used this. She did most of the cooking on our trip. And well, she did all the cooking. I'll come right out and say it. I'm usually the week time chef. I get everyone home and I get everyone fed during the week. It's not a glorious affair. It's a matter of survival. And then on the weekends, my wife cooks, and she does awesome. She makes just great food. And I frequently am her prep cook. She's fine with a knife, but she knows I take great pleasure and joy in the prep part and in the cutting part. And so, and I'm a little bit quicker, so I'll prep all the ingredients, and she'll actually cook it up. She'll do the research, find the recipes, figure out what we're gonna eat, but I'll do some of the manual actions. And so I use this a little bit, and wow, it works great. It really works great. And what I like about this in the kitchen is that you can use that sort of pinch grip that you use with a kitchen knife when you're cutting, you know, kind of riding up closer to the blade. And you can use that to great effect with this. Oftentimes you'll hear people talking about just regular folding knives as being kitchen knives, and that I've never quite understood. I mean, I know you can use this to cut an apple, and you can use this to cut anything in the kitchen in a pinch, but it's not very handy. Whereas a regular kitchen knife is obviously the tool for the job. So this thing not only works well in the handhold you might use a cooking knife for, but also you get this great scooping effect. You have this nice broad surface to pick your ingredients up and drop them in the pan. Right now I'm doing heaps of garlic. I'm lifting up heaps of garlic and throwing it in a pan of hot oil, olive oil. But of course only for about a minute or two, because you don't want it to get all singed and bitter. I love the shape of this blade because it gives you a bit of a tip, and well, we all like a little bit of tip, you know. It can open up packages really easily, that kind of thing. But also, now I'm going to go down my little imaginary route. And if you're using this as a camp knife, you never know when you need a point and what you might need it for. So if you were to make a knife like this with more of a Santoku tip, I mean, that's a tip too. You can do stuff with that too. This is kind of a battered and beaten Henkel's knife. You could use that tip too, I guess, but this sort of clipped sax kind of blade tip, I don't know, it really gets me. I like it. You could use it defensively if you had to against, say, a bear or a mountain lion that's jumping you, you know, while you're cooking up your camp meal. But actually, more realistically, you could use it in survival sort of applications. All that being said, you know, I'm not a survivalist. Not that it's just as a matter of time, not a matter of preference. It'd be cool stuff to know. I just haven't gone down that route. But it seems like this tip would be a very useful thing, and makes this more than just a cleaver. I know some people have referred to this as kind of a camp cleaver, and I think it's a little bit more than that. I would say it's more of a knife, you know, with that tip, if that makes any sense to you. It might not, I don't know, it's very early in the morning, and maybe I'm not making total sense. Oh, look at that. It's just about 45 degrees there. Okay, so as I mentioned before, I don't remember if it was actually in this take or not, but this is a 6 1/4 inch long blade. You've got a nice nearly 5-inch handle, and it feels very comfortable in hand. You've got G10 handle scales that have been contoured in this direction to fit your hand, and the texturing in here, these groove textures, are very very grippy laterally and work great if it gets, or when it gets wet. It stays in your hand really nicely. You've got these little divots cut out here, which are perfect for this kind of pinch grip, and I guess you know, there are a lot of bushcraft applications where you might hold the blade like this that I don't know about, that feels nice. But for kitchen stuff, this is a great pinch point. And yeah, and it's bolted on, so you get this wet under there, and you know, you've used it as a hunting knife, or you've used it as a kitchen knife, you've immersed it in water. You can take these off and clean it out underneath. Aussate steel, like I said before, it holds a good edge, especially for a kitchen knife, you know. It holds a good edge and hones up really quickly. I brought my strop on our little trip, and just, I don't want to say obsessively strop that. I strop obsessively anyway, just to make me feel better. But after every use of this, you know, we brought a soft wooden cutting board. After every use, I would strop it up and get it nice and honed again. And just as a sidebar, the place we go, it's not like we're roughing it, certainly. But when it comes to cutlery and kitchen equipment, we're definitely roughing it. And they have a glass cutting board there. And I have a lot of things to say about that. First of all, why would you have a glass cutting board in a cabin, A? And B, glass cutting board? Like, the whole concept eludes me. I can't understand why someone would design it in the first place, make it, manufacture, and then actually use a glass cutting board. It's like, why not just use metal at that point and just chop all of your vegetables on metal? It would dull the blade ever so slightly quicker, so it would be more efficient, because it seems like that's all the glass cutting board is there for, is just to ruin your blades. I don't understand that. If you do, leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what that's all about, because, well, I certainly don't get it. One thing I like about this handle also is this sort of bird's beak area, which you don't see often on a chef's knife or on a cooking knife. And this, of course, comes in handy if you're using this in any sort of light chopping. This would be great as a light chopper. It's long enough and you can choke back on the handle enough. You've got this nice texturing. You've got this bird's beak where you could pivot around. a pivot hole through which you could put a lanyard so you don't lose it, but also this really fat, slicey blade would be great for light chopping and, you know, vegetation clearing. Kind of light machete work, I guess, is how I might put it. So I really like this knife, the Off-Grid Knives Grizzly. I have a couple of things to compare it to. Of course, here it is with a 10-inch chef's knife. So it can flex into that realm. It's not exactly a chef's knife, but, you know, if this is all you have in your kitchen, you're in great shape. I can hear the chefs out there maybe saying a thing or two, but I firmly believe it. I was a prep cook for a few years in college and cut up a lot of stuff with the 10-inch knives. I do like the 10-inch knives best. But again, that's because you get a lot of scooping space. And if you're doing bigger things like chicken, you just have a lot more cutting room, you know, on the blade. Also, I like the sweep. There's a lot of flat, but then you have a bit of belly at the front, which comes in handy. Here it is with a Henkel's Santoku. This is my wife's favorite knife. So you can see why my wife may have liked using this Grizzly. I mean, she did, but you can see it's about the same size. She finds the 10-inch blades a little bit too long. So same size and a bit of the same broadness, even broader, so she could pick up ingredients. This one does have that sort of shape in the back to retain your hand. And then on the camp side, I don't have too many camp knives, but it reminds me a little bit of the Essie kind of style of things. It's a full tang blade, you know, sandwiched between two handle scales, and fully flat, or nearly fully flat ground. This is it's not a hungless, this is the RTAC 2. I think this is pre-hungless, but, you know, obviously this is much bigger and heavier and stouter. It's, you know, the blade stock is much bigger, but they kind of remind me of one another. Same sort of full tang, outdoor kind of campy knife. So, well, kind of very different actually, but. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the Off-Grid Grizzly camp/kitchen knife, or camp kitchen, or kitchen camp knife. However you choose to put it. I really like it. I think it's a really good knife for general use. And you know, this if you never ever use it in the kitchen, this is still a great outdoors knife, and a great and useful blade shape. So I'm very psyched to have this. All right, thank you for watching.